I want to start off by saying this is, if you have any small children around, send them out of the room. This is not anything they need to be really privy to. But just when you think you've ran out of good reasons to get your children out of these perverted public schools, perverted private schools, these schools that are attempting to, in every way, literally pervert the minds and the actions of your children, they give you more and more reasons. And when you look and you think of the idea of perversion, to take something that's right or innocent or pure and you corrupt it by introducing filth or sin or sick things, that is what brings to mind this idea of pervert. You know, it used to be really common to maybe refer to a pedophile or someone of that twisted way of thinking as simply a pervert. Their mind's corrupted. I'm going to show you a little clip to show you, if you have not been made aware, that some of the things that are going on in these schools, even these high end, high tuition private schools, that how far down the toilet the mainstream educational system has gone. I'm going to show you a couple clips from some undercover work done by Project Veritas at Francis W. Parker Private School, catching the dean of students bragging about the sick things that go on at this school with underage kids. So, without further ado, like I said, if there's any children in the room, take them out or just listen to this when they're not around, because it's really sickening what these children were exposed to. And look, the rejoicing in this sinfulness, rejoicing in this sickening act that this dean takes. He has a completely positive spin on what he did and what he helped bring to pass. So just listen.
I had like our LGBTQ plus health center come in. They were passing around butt plugs and dildos to my students, talking about queer sex, using lube versus using spit.
Meet Joe Bruno, Dean of Students at the prestigious Francis W. Parker Private School in Chicago, which happens to charge $40,000 per student.
They're just like passing around dildos, butt plugs. The kids are just playing with them. They're like, how does this butt plug work? How do we do, like, how does this work? That's a really cool part of my job.
Parents might be stunned to learn that Bruno's version of love and acceptance means handing out sex toys to underage students.
So I've been the dean for...
All right, so that's the initial clip. I'll put the link to the full video if you desire to watch it in the description box. This guy's extremely graphic. Now, you would think at the immediate response to this from an educational system, be it public or private, would be to at least suspend somebody that has done this, put them on leave or just fire them or whatever. No, that is not the response that happened. On the opposite to that, the school defends their dean. Of course, if you pull this up, it took no time to see a bunch of left leaning, copy paste, Operation Mockingbird, parrot and repeat defenses, calling Project Veritas a right wing extremist group or conservative group. How the video was spliced. Of course, it was spliced in the sense that its overall context had to be shortened for the sake of time. But what you see in the flow of the statements made, even in what you heard, these weren't mixed and these weren't twisted. This was just him saying what went on, that these sex toys were being passed around, and just how vulgar some of the conversation was, and that this is something that he promotes. Now, they did go, as in, if you follow this group, and I'm not saying I fully support everything they've ever done, but at least it is some real journalism. they typically, after something like this, they will try to go talk to the person. And more often than not, here of in recent months or the past few years, a lot of the people will simply run. I mean, just run. Now, in this clip, you'll see they've added in some music and some parody as far as like poking fun at the man's response. But I'll just play it. It's a relatively short clip, and you'll see not only he runs into the school, you can tell he's a very effeminate man. You could hear it in his speech. You'll see it in his dress and his demeanor and his actions here. And then you see security defend him. You see parents defend him. But who's defending the children in this school of perverts, where a admin would allow this knowingly, and then go on to not only show they allow it or tolerate it, but they actually encourage it, and they're willing to protect a man who is doing perverted, sick, sexual things. Whether he's touching them or not, it's still sick and it's still sexual and it's still perverted. And they defend him. I'll read here in a minute just one of the many endless woke left kind of defend him and you know, Project Veritas bad, kind of like they used to with Orange Man bad, pervert good. But we really need to understand they are coming for your children. It was never about being able to get married. That was the step into the path of more extreme perversion. And you were a conspiracy theorist, you were a crackpot if that's what you thought. And yet that's exactly what we see with the drag queen story hour, with schools allowing this perversion. If you have never come to, just the realization that these are satanic temples, these public and private warped school systems that allow this stuff, where you're sending your child in to be a victim. I don't know what it's going to take. Is it going to take your child actually becoming a complete victim, and then will it strike people as bad, or even then? But these people are paying up to $40,000 a year, more than many people make in a year, raising their child. They're paying to send to this perverted school. So watch this clip and you'll see the generic response of this sick agenda of perverting your children. Protect the pervert and try to, hide it and mask it and get anybody out of the line of sight that might be exposing this. You see, we're supposed to have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them, expose them, and show them for what they are. And that's not been going on for a long time. And that's one of the problems. People have just tried to put the head in the sand approach, and many a child has been hurt and their lives ruined because of that approach.
Joe Bruno.
Yes.
Hi there. James O'Keefe with Project Veritas.
Hell no, to the no.
You're on camera here talking about giving anal sex toys and butt plugs to little children.
They're just like passing around dildos, butt plugs. The kids are just playing with them.
Sir, why are you running? Why are you running away?
Why are you running?
Sir, anal butt plugs and toys?
Excuse me?
Bruno, just, excuse me, this guy, this teacher is talking about giving sex toys to your children.
This is the space where we're distancing children.
Right.
Can you actually evacuate the patio?
Right,
please?
but he was giving sex toys to the
I
children.
understand. I have children here.
Isn't it ironic? Don't you think?
Please evacuate.
We're leaving, but he was talking about giving sex toys to children.
Thank you for leaving.
We understand. Reporters asking someone a question. We are leaving, you bet. As you can see, he ran into the building as quickly as possible. Are we allowed to stand on the sidewalk, sir?
Sidewalk, I can't control that.
Thank you. We're going to stand on the sidewalk right here. Do you know a Joseph Bruno? Bruno?
Bueller?
Yes, you're filming me. We're filming you too. Joe Bruno, your dean of students, talking about giving sex toys to children. Okay.
Did you see the response from the man initially? He obviously he knows he's doing something wrong. Runs in, gets the security guard. Did you see the parent? Now they're concerned that they're talking about something near the earshot of children. I have children that go here, the lady said. They're not concerned that he said it, just that it's being said outside, that it's being said outside where other kids allegedly are hearing it. It's not necessarily that, oh well, he said it, well that's wrong, let's arrest him. Now what's funny is, to go along with this, like I said, you got, the woke and everybody, supporting this nonsense and defending it and how they're inclusive and blah, blah, blah. Now, you would assume when a pervert like that is exposed, the police would show in and at least investigate and look into it and say, oh my goodness, what do we got going on here? No, that is obviously not what happened in Chicago, but here's what did happen. Chicago private, this is the Chicago Sun-Times, another obviously, woke, demented top newspaper, obviously leaning way so far to the left they're falling off the planet. Chicago private school defends LGBTQ sex ed, tightens security after right-wing viral video. A Francis W. Parker School administrator was secretly recorded by an operative with the group Project Veritas posing as a conference attendee. An elite, now, I guess their definition of elite and my definition of elite are obviously very, very different. Elite to me would mean good, high values, high standard, not a place of sexual deviancy, but nonetheless, look how they frame this. Now, you saw the video and portions of it. It says an elite private school tightened security and disabled its Twitter and Facebook accounts after a video of its dean of students secretly recorded by a conservative group went viral on Wednesday. The video captures the dean talking last week about a visit to Parker School by an LGBT health organization to discuss queer sexual health with high schoolers. See, the word queer still means strange any way you want to look at it. I mean, that's what the word means. And if it's not strange, then I don't understand that. But the video of that conversation was edited by the right-wing group before it posted. Parker later sent a letter to the school community late Wednesday saying, "We are heartbroken that one of our colleagues' words have been severely misrepresented for a malicious purpose." I don't see defending children and wanting that filthy stuff not being in the school at all. You don't need to be in there talking about sexual acts openly with heterosexuals, much less homosexuals. There's no place for it in school. That's not what kids go to school for. That's not what they're supposed to be going to school for. The letter offered a strong support for their faculty and staff and for the school's inclusive LGBTQ plus affirming and comprehensive approach to sex education, which means bringing sex toys into a child's classroom, handing them out, explaining to them how to use them. This is what they call sex education. The school said the local alderman helped it expand the police presence around its Lincoln Park campus, and has implemented higher security measures. At least one person marched in front of the school on Thursday to protest the school's sex ed curriculum. Now, you see how they're framing this. Project Veritas bad for exposing this sick thing that should never be in any public school, private school, school where a child is. You shouldn't be seeing this in the workplace. You shouldn't be seeing it at elementary, junior high, high school. It has no place on a college campus. They're there to learn history and reading and writing and arithmetic. But this is part of their agenda. If it's not seeking or sneaking in new sick twisted books into your library, which you need to check if you have a child in public or private school that you send off for education. You need to read the books they bring home. You need to see if you can find out what's in that school's library, because during the lockdowns, a lot of curriculum was revamped. A lot of new things, critical race theory, homosexual, LGBT material was snuck into libraries in the school's curriculum that simply wasn't there prior. There was a lot of underhanded and shady things took place that you may not be aware of. Really, the only way to keep your child safe from this is find a way to get them out of these schools. Find a way to educate them yourself. I know it's hard. I know it may cost money in a lot of areas. How much is your child worth? How much is their mind worth? How much is it worth to protect them? To try to find some alternative way to get them out of this wave of perversion that is crashing down on the education system here in the West. Your children are priceless, are they not? We're talking about their very future, their lives. And this is not limited to this Francis W. Parker private school where they're being paid filthy, insane amounts of money to pervert the children. This is all over the place. This is where we're at. And I just wanted to share this with you and help you to realize this agenda has never been about everyone just going along to get along. You do what you do and I do what I do. And the agenda is much deeper and darker, and the fruit is hanging on the tree. It's not that you have to really look hard to find it. This is just what happens when a culture turns its back on God by and large. This is what happens when a culture that has the responsibility to raise and train and educate their own children delegate that to institutions ran by Satan. This is what happens. This is what happens when we get away from God's word. I do want to offer this as an encouragement in this sense. All of this, as distracting as it is, as awful it is, as disturbing as it should be to a normal thinking person, Jesus told the Pharisees in his day, and he rebuked them for not noticing the signs of the times in which he, the Messiah, stepped right into the world right in front of them. And we as Christians need to remember that Scripture doesn't paint this idea of Christians taking over the world prior to Christ's returns, despite dominion theology and its error. It teaches that evil men will wax worse and worse, sin will get worse and worse, things will just get less and less godly, more and more out of sorts. All of this as a reminder that we can look at the signs of the times and get comfort in knowing this. All of this mess has a very short shelf life in the big picture, because as things get worse and they look like they're just falling all, just falling all to pieces around us, the pieces are falling into place, showing us that Christ is closer than ever to his return. That the time between us having to see these things and children face these things, and when Christ comes to rule and reign with a rod of iron in perfect righteousness, is so much closer. And that we need to try to be vigilant. We need to try to be discerning, careful, and walk around, to be circumspect, to pay attention to the things around us, to try to make good decisions based on God's word, to protect our children from these predators, from these perverts, and those that would bring life altering harm to them mentally and or physically. That's part of our job of loving. Love protects. And any parent that knows that that stuff's going on and still willingly sends their child to that school and is fine with it does not love their child. They're showing the absence of love, hatred for that child by not protecting them, by deliberately putting them in harm's way. Let that not be us. Let's try to guard these children. They're precious. They're the future next generation. But help people to understand they didn't want God in their schools. This is what it looks like. They didn't want God in their culture. Here's a glimpse of what that looks like. God is light, in him there's no darkness at all. Jesus is the light that lights every man that comes into this world. Absent his light, only darkness remains.